You know, most of the financial advice you hear is all about one thing: saving. But saving, that's just one chapter in a much, much bigger story. Today, we're going to look at the entire life cycle of your wealth, not just how you build it, but how you grow it, and maybe, just maybe, the most important part, how you actually use it. Let's dive in.
So let's kick things off with a central conflict that a lot of us face. It's sometimes called the saver's paradox, and it's this fundamental tension that really sits at the heart of personal finance. Understanding this is absolutely key.
I mean, you hear this all the time, right? Financial advisors, the news, your favorite blog, everyone is telling us to save, save, save. The message is pretty clear. You're probably behind, and the only answer is to just sock away more cash for this future that feels, well, a lifetime away.
Now, this might sound completely backwards, but it's a question we really have to ask. After spending decades training ourselves to accumulate money, what if the bigger and frankly harder skill is figuring out how to let it go? And believe it or not, the data suggests this isn't just some philosophical question. This number is just staggering. It comes from a study by BlackRock, which is the world's largest asset manager. And what they found was that after nearly 2 decades in retirement, about half of all retirees still have 80% or more of their savings. I mean, think about that for a second. They spent their entire lives saving, only to barely even touch the money they worked so hard for. This just screams that there's a huge disconnect between the skill of saving and the skill of spending. Okay, so to really understand this whole journey, we've got to rewind. Let's go all the way back to the very beginning of creating wealth. And that means we need to look at our single most valuable asset. And for most of us, it is not what you think.
I want you to picture your financial life like this chart. When you're just starting out in your career, your financial capital, your actual savings and investments is probably pretty low. But your human capital? That is at its absolute peak. And so the entire game of building wealth is about one thing: converting that human capital into financial capital over your working life.
So what exactly is human capital? Well, in simple terms, it's your future earning potential. It's the total economic value of your skills, your knowledge, your experience. It's all the paychecks you haven't earned yet. It's this incredible asset that you have to actively manage and turn into real money. Now, once we start turning that human capital into financial capital, we need an engine to make it grow. And the most powerful one out there is compound interest. You know, they call it the 8th wonder of the world. But this miracle has a hidden and much darker side.
The idea itself is pretty simple. Your money earns returns, and then those returns start earning their own returns. It creates this powerful feedback loop that can lead to some seriously exponential growth. This is the magic behind everything from your 401k to your savings account. Let's really break down the difference here. A simple return is just additive. So if you have $100 and you earn 10%, you get $10 every single year. But compounding, that's multiplicative. So the first year you get $10, but the next year you're earning 10% on $110, then on $121, and on and on. And that's why you see those charts that start out flat and then just shoot for the moon. That multiplicative power is everything. And that multiplicative effect, well, that brings us to a really critical point. Academic research shows that the very same process that builds our wealth is also an incredibly powerful engine for systemic inequality. Why? Because returns are a percentage of what you already have. So, those who start with more money see their wealth grow exponentially faster. And over time, that naturally leads to wealth getting more and more concentrated at the top. So, knowing all this, the incredible potential and the serious pitfalls, how do we go about building our own wealth blueprint? How do we design a machine that actually works for us, both effectively and responsibly?
It all starts with one super simple but absolutely transformative principle. Before you pay rent, before you pay your phone bill, before you pay anything, you set aside a portion of your income for your future self. It's about treating your savings and investments as a non-negotiable expense. You make your future a priority.
Okay, once you've got that down, a solid blueprint really just follows these key steps. First, you've got to assess what are your goals and how much risk can you really stomach. Then you choose your building blocks, things like stocks and bonds. Next up, you diversify. You spread things out. And finally, you have to rebalance regularly to make sure your strategy stays on track. You know the old saying? Don't put all your eggs in one basket. That's diversification in a nutshell. The whole goal is to create a mix of different assets, like stocks for growth, bonds for stability, maybe even some alternatives like real estate. This mix helps balance out the risk and really smooths out your returns over the long haul.
And it's not just about what you buy. You have to understand how big economic forces, like inflation, affect your blueprint. For example, during times of high inflation, different kinds of stocks behave very differently. Value stocks, these are your mature companies with strong cash flows right now. They tend to do pretty well. Why? Well, because money today is worth more when inflation is eating away at the value of future dollars. On the flip side, growth stocks often underperform because their value is tied to profits way out in the future, and inflation makes those future profits worth a lot less. Understanding these dynamics is just crucial for navigating different economic climates.
Okay, so now let's bring this all the way back around to where we started, back to that original paradox. After a lifetime of building this incredible financial machine, of saving and investing, we finally arrive at the last and maybe the hardest skill of them all. This is a massive psychological hurdle. I mean, think about it. For 30, maybe 40 years, your brain has been hardwired to accumulate, to see that big number in your account as safety and security. You can't just flip a switch and suddenly be comfortable watching that balance go down. It goes against a habit you've spent your entire adult life building.
So what's the solution? Well, you have to practice. You have to start flexing that spending muscle before you retire. Build a detailed financial plan so you have the confidence to know you're not going to run out of money. Remind yourself that your health is way more important than your wealth, and really focus on spending money on experiences that bring you actual joy, not just more stuff.
And that really leaves us with this one final question. We spend so much time and energy focused on the how to save, how to invest, how to grow it all. But maybe, just maybe, we need to spend a little more time on the why. Because at the end of the day, money is just a tool. The real question is, what are you building with it?